Basically take it and point it directly at me, and everybody's going to look over your shoulder, okay?
Okay.
So take that, point it at me.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep.
So this is a depth perception camera. So it's called an SLS camera, structured light sensory. So in a nutshell, I'm going to point out a few things because I do use this camera a lot for debunking. I only use this camera on groups of 10. So just kind of put that in mind. Here's why. Do you see the 3 points for my head, basically?
Yeah.
That's because I have 2 eyes and a nose. That's the depth perception of my face. That's why there's 3 points. When I'm looking for an anomaly on there and I'm doing like a spot checking it, I will always look for those 3 points. If it's not there, I move on. It also does not see in the dark like super great. It is on a night vision right now, but it's not super great. So I always do a lot of like screenshots, and then I brighten it up to make sure that's not a tree or a sign or anything like that. You guys hiding in the darkness. So if there's something in there that I'm not really sure of, I will still give you the screenshot of light and dark, so that way you guys can see what I'm looking at. In the event, Heather, that you do see something and there's another stick figure standing right here and you're not sure what it is, ask that stick figure to do something specific like wave their right hand. If you get the response, that's obviously going to be my stamp of approval.
Okay.
Keep in mind, this camera will put a stick man in front of anything that is in front of something else. I am in front of the building, so if I move, it's probably going to put it on the parking meter plus the vehicles over there because those will be in front of the building. So that's why we use this a lot for debunking. The sensitivity is turned down to about 35%. So that way we're not picking up every single leaf. So that's how it works. So you only have one button on there, so it's already recording. So go ahead and hit the stop button. I just wanted to record. Came in, they were not told enough to drink. John had the bartender throw their asses out of there, and they left pretty ticked off. They came back the next night and they tried to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John saw what was going on from the back. He slammed down his beer just like a linebacker does, and he goes up front and starts pounding on these guys, beating the hell out of them. A couple of gunshots go off, and John got grazed in the neck. Only grazed him. It went into the wall behind him. He was the only one that got shot, but he's also the only one that got up. He goes back to the bar, tells the bartender, get me another beer, go get those 2 guys an ambulance. Irony of the story, nobody died. If I tell you that this building is haunted, you were preconditioned to think that some tragic death occurred here. That's the story you were expecting. It's not the case. What's going on here is a bullet hole. It's allegedly still here. Even if it's not, and they filled it in, that means Big John, his blood is still inside the building. They sealed it. There's no way they got every last piece of his DNA out of here. People that sit in front of this bar tend to get a little queasy, nauseous headache. I thought it was just an old wives' tale or a rumor until I actually started seeing some of my guests that would come out here sicker than they've ever been, can't go ghost hunting with me because they sat in the front of the bar. And it wasn't that they had the food, it was just one little quick drink before the tour, and now they can't go ghost hunting. So I kind of take that for what it's worth. I've been starting here for 5 years. So I see it at least 3 to 5 times a year. And that actually occurs. But this is also why we started here. It's a heated warning. I got 10 strangers in front of me. I don't know how this is going to affect any of you. Anybody gets any of those symptoms, let me know. That's headache, nausea, dizziness. We will blame the weather first, but we will remove ourselves from the area and kind of assess the situation from there and see what's going on. Is that fair for everybody? These things have occurred. Now, let's get your mind off your own health because it's probably the scariest thing I'm going to tell you all night long because it deals with your health. We had a big earthquake here in 1886. If you didn't already know that from any other tour here in Charleston, now you know. So it's a weird thing for us in South Carolina because we don't get earthquakes, we get hurricanes here. So apparently this building was where the first death occurred from the earthquake. The white mantle, a piece of it broke off, hit somebody in the back of the head, killed him. Previous owner of the bar, in between the 2 different Big John renovations, used to see dark shadows in the middle of East Bay Street after closing. So take that for what it's worth because I did say allegedly a lot with that one. I have no proof whatsoever. Sorry, I was waiting for somebody to do the Mexican hat dance. I have no proof on that one. It's just a great segue. So none of you are worried about getting sick while we're out and about, even though I just brought it back up again. So that was supposed to be a joke, so thanks for chuckling. I seen that back there. All right, you guys ready to learn more about the gear?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get off this crazy street corner. We're actually going to go this way. The carriage rides, so they can hear us, which is exactly why Betsy's on mute right now, because we don't want to disturb them. So they're sleeping. You guys get the point. But anyway, the history here is just a one-liner. It's the same red barn that held horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. Keywords here would be delivery, milk, eggs, anything relative to a stable. Hope you guys are starting to see the point with all of these communicators. So let's talk about them a little bit further. What's the first question you guys would ask a Ouija board if you were sitting in front of one?
How many of you are here?
Simpler than that.
Is anyone?
Is anyone? Exactly. So let's say the 11 of us stood around, and I said, is anybody here? Just like they do on TV in the movies. And who has a spirit box? Clay, Rebecca. Actually, here's the answer no coming out of her spirit box. If I ask, is anybody here? That means somebody's here, guys. They answer. So the whole point is we are not going out for yes no questions. We're going to go out for some details. If somebody's here, tell me what color a big red barn is. Now we know we are looking and listening for the color red. However, 3 of you are using song lyrics and DJs to be able to convey messages. The word red might not be in those messages, like to convey messages from a song lyric or a DJ. But it's fire truck, blood, heart. Those three things are specifically red. I may take that as something being paranormal if something else was going on. Another example. Let's say Amy's word list actually has the word art on it. Probably doesn't. I'm using this as an example. That doesn't mean anything over here by itself. Betsy, here's the number 40 coming out of her spirit box. If you put both of those two clues together, Art Fair Clock was number 40 on Big John's team. I guess where I'm going with this, it's a lot of little breadcrumb clues. We're going to pick them up. Hopefully we got a loaf of bread by the time we're done. So cameras. So we've already talked about, no people, no cars. But with yours, Tony, so a couple of extra rules. You are going to try to keep one of us in play. Only because it is easier to find a cold spot if we have a warm reference, which is why I make that joke over there. The other thing, the sky has no surface. The blue dot defaults to the sky every time. So it goes for following this around. Most people do. So I kind of have to point that out. So you must be Yogi there. So with the cameras, also just so you guys know, I do upload them to YouTube. So I don't always follow up with you guys in real time. If you broke it already, you're fine. So with the cameras, because the cameras are so small, again, aside from the purse is obviously much larger, but I can use that one for debunking. If I'm not following up with you guys in real time, it's only because I'm waiting for the full YouTube video so I can watch them on a much larger screen. You guys are going to be able to watch them on your TV set. EMF meters, have we seen any numbers come out of those just yet? Nothing yet?
4.3, right?
Okay.
So that actually
Not your range.
I must have hit a button. I get accused of that all the time. So I'll take a 4.3 over here. We don't normally see anything. So we'll take a quick little 4.3. Any other major questions about the gear that you're using?
Do you want me recording the whole time?
Good question. So, recording. So as far as cameras go, actually all three of you are lined up, so perfect. Whenever we get into a space, you'll hit the record button, leave it run for the entire time we're there. Don't record in between spaces. Nobody liked the Blair Witch Project. It was horrible.
Gotcha.
So we don't need to recreate it. I do splice all of your little videos together for one video per camera. So that's kind of, you guys will get one from each cam. Good question. Any other major questions?
So you're recording right now?
Amy, what words do we have going on there now?
Trial. One. Technique.
All three of these. And I like one, but it's too easy.
One as in winner. One.
Oh, I think I know one.
WON.
All right, you're all hired for now. I'm going to fire you later. Let's go learn some real history.
All right.
We're going to go to
15.5.
Wow. Okay.
You're not getting anything?
Stand next to him. Maybe you'll get the word. Come on.
15.5 your new baseline. Once you reach 25, that'll be your normal base. So the little blinky light place that we don't use by itself is only because it goes to 25 only. That's the maximum.
Right.
That's why we don't use it by itself. And that's exactly why, where's the folks? So playing Heather, that's why we don't use it by itself. Like when I kind of mocked that you guys were using the blinky light devices at that other place. It only goes to 25. So again, it doesn't go very high at all. It's been, the probes on there are starting to go bad. I got like a fucked up so again, they're just there at the right. All right, bless you.
Thank you.
That's why we're going to start off our first place. So by the way, welcome to a parking lot. A great big old smelly parking lot with a dumpster in the corner. I told you guys I'd take you to weird spaces. By the way, people listening to the spirit boxes, have you guys heard anything yet?
Music.
When you hear music, tell me what the lyrics are.
Oh, well, is it just like the whole song?
The whole song. Let me see your spirit
I
box.
listened to Sledgehammer over there. Now
Like
I'm
the whole
listening-
song from start to finish?
That's all right.
Yeah, it's like just going. The Beatles come together playing right now.
Let me see your spirit box. I need to make sure it's moving.
He's on.
You shouldn't be like stuck on one station.
He's on the radio station.
I was supposed to say, this is all right.
That doesn't sound
Are you
right
hearing
at all.
songs?
No, I'm hearing static and like occasional words.
What about now?
That's the.
There we
whole
go.
thing.
That's what he's like. He's just jamming out over there.
He is. He's
1984 Walkman on his ears.
he's dancing.
Have you heard anything coming out of yours?
Oh.
The only thing I heard was dryer sheets, but
Yeah.
that's probably not.
That sounds like an
Did you get one?
Bad.
And again, you don't know. We're not next
well,
to
that's
We're
true. I
well,
don't
we
know.
are out of dryer sheets. So.
Yeah. Maybe that was a reminder. Yeah, get your Amazon order in.
Set, all set.
All set. Now we're all set. Perfect. Communicators, anybody with a communication device, this is where I start withholding information on purpose. I will not be giving you questions here like what color was George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the big red bar. Okay, so you're going to get the answers from those boxes. So welcome to this crazy parking lot. Where the hell are we? This used to be something relevant to the history of Charleston. That's why we're here, and no other ghost tours are here because there's nothing to see. It just allows my 10 people to be able to spread out. We only have one vehicle, luckily enough. It still feels just like a normal Wednesday night here in Charleston when I walk around the city before I met with you. I was like, all right, this is not the night before Halloween for everybody. But anyway, this used to be the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion. Their mansion sat in the front of the space facing East Bay Street. Eliza's garden was lined up with Five Church Restaurant. You came all the way across, and we are standing in the servant and slave quarters for the home. That's the layout of the land. Who the hell were they? Charles and Eliza had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 different Chucks, in case you guys weren't paying attention. So that's why we look for the secondary clues as well. So if the name Charles shows up somewhere, I need to know which one it is so I know how to address them. So moving on. The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution of South Carolina. It's a big deal for us, but I hate politics more than all of you combined, especially when we're this close to an election year. So the election being over. But if I don't give the gentleman their recognition, they will do it for me in a nasty manner coming out of the spirit box. Just give it to them, we move on. Yeah, you'd be surprised at the nasty messages we have actually gotten, and they're not like radio chatter like, hey, please go home tonight, have a good night. Like it's a long thing. But anyway, moving on. We're gonna talk about Eliza instead. She marries Charles at a young age according to today's standards. I say it slowly is because if you're gonna ask her how old she was, do not expect numbers from the colonial times that she came from when young ladies got married at like 12 and 14. Think of today's standards because the husband is over double her age. So kind of a weird thing back then for sure. So just kind of put those numbers in the back of your brain of what they actually could be when you guys are listening to your spirit boxes. She married him because her father was over in England. Dad thinks he's dying over there, and he wants to see all his kids one last time, so he's trying to bring them all home. But Eliza didn't believe he was dying, so she stayed put right here, got married. It is 1744. You do not get married in that year to earn a green card. We're not a country yet. So she did marry him out of love. This is a love story, everybody. There's nothing horrific about this location. It's just haunted as hell. So she was correct. Dad did not die right away. Instead, he starts sending her gifts from England, right where you're standing. One of those gifts happens to be the plant seeds of indigo. That's a plant that makes blue dye, makes your blue jeans blue. A lot of you are wearing it right now because that's what we use it for today. When she got her seeds, though, no idea what to do with it. She had to learn from the servants and slaves how to keep it going. It's not always hot here. And she learned how to keep it going, she learned how to make the dye from them, and then move it to a cash crop down by the Stone River. Got a hold of her father overseas and told him that the rice plantations were going downhill. In price, they were going to make a killing with the indigo. And now we have an international businesswoman during colonial times. Something absolutely unheard of. So this is a place of respect for sure. So with this location, what will happen, in every location we go to, we're going to investigate a little bit differently. This one, we're going to spread out, and I'll do a few round robins with everybody, kind of giving you guys an opportunity to listen in and get used to your cameras and ask me more questions as I kind of do the round robins. And then I'll regroup us and give you all of the answers, and then we will move on to our next space based on what's actually going on here. So I'm going to basically give you focus questions for the people using communicators. You can say these things out loud, or you can just focus on them. She already knows we're here, and she knows what we ask every single night. If you go rogue and you ask your own questions, 3 small rules. No yes, no questions. They don't make any sense to me. So you guys are seeing the point on that. We've already talked about it. To be respectful, and do not ask about Eliza's children. You'll kind of unintentionally poke the bear. So just don't do it. I'll explain before we leave the space. So left to right with people with communicators. So this is actually going to work out really well because you guys are sitting right next to each other. You guys are going to have the same set of questions. So you're going to focus on Eliza's death. So 4 major things we get answers to: age at time of death, and then what she died from, where she's buried, and which president was a pallbearer at her funeral. So age, how, where, president. So those are the 4 majors. Let's see. Next, spirit box. So Betsy, with yours, your only gives us 1 to 2 syllables at a time, just based on how it works. You're going to be focused on the mansion. It's not here anymore. If we get the what happened to it, we often get 2 or 3 numbers from the exact date of when that occurred. So again, these numbers can go anywhere. So that's why you guys are going to tell me all the things that you're hearing out of your different spirit boxes. You might be getting answers to what Rebecca's asking. We don't know. That's why we always use multiple communicators. Last but not least, Amy. Your device is almost a catch-all because it's only 20% accurate, but I'm going to give you something to focus on. Eliza that I just spoke of is the second wife named Eliza from Charles, back to back. First wife, named Eliza, also has a maiden name with the same letter as the one I just talked about, the letter L. Figure out which Eliza we're dealing with based on her maiden name. You can also ask questions about their marriage and how long they were married and how old they were and all of those extra we'll give you
Do
numbers.
it spread out now?
So you'll see that as you start to go through the night.
Maybe not yet.
Everybody else has, millimeters or cameras. So I'm going to let you guys kind of like bounce around a little bit and kind of see what's going on. Have you heard anything totally out there yet? Not the most exciting job. So, we've had nights where like literally nothing, it just stayed a low hum all night long. It was weird. So again, it could happen, but every once in a while we get these spikes. Millimeters, did we get any numbers yet? Nothing yet. Okay.
That's interesting.
You got that 15? Your highest one so far? All right, guys, spread out. Let's get to work. Let's do this. Tom's going to be our quiet one of the night. He hasn't said a word besides his own name yet.
Yeah, yeah.
What was her name again?
Eliza?
Eliza?
I think so.
I've heard your name. But I don't know if it means anything. It's weird.
Okay, you hear? I want.
Right here?
Yeah.
It just sounds like I can't tell. You can't tell when it's something that you're supposed to listen to, when it's just. Eliza, how old were you when you died? Just put it around my neck. You know what I'm talking about? Like, it does stop on like songs or words, but sometimes they're so fast. Gold digger.
You should tell them that you've heard my name. There's something attached to me that I brought.
What?
So in case there's something attached to me that I brought, you should tell them you heard my name. That's what I was saying.
I did.
That's what I'm saying. You should tell them.
Oh, but it's wild. I can't tell when it's. I hear lots of words.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You heard it. Didn't you pick up something like a phrase?
It just sounded more like
You
pieces
just
of
hear
bits
the-
of commercials and like
There's
music
like
and
quick little.
have anything fun yet?
No, not really. I mean, it's fun to kind of see what it looks like, but then
Uh-huh.
like lamp poles or things like those definitely give like, very obvious almost lines, but obviously they're
Cool.
not. Yeah. How about you?
10, which you said they got the other night. So, but I don't know if it means anything.
Oh, what's that? Yeah, what's that mean? Okay.
I asked who the president was, and I heard something about United States of America, and then I heard Joe Biden, and then I hear what sounds like speeches from.
Presidential speeches. But who was the pallbearer?
I don't know, but it's kind of weird that I asked that, and then it started.
It is weird.
Try again. Who was the president who was a pallbearer at your funeral? Like, it clearly stops and it's trying, like.
Expand or focus.
I can't tell. It said something about garbage. So I got closer to the garbage.
All right, William, what do you got?
It's really hard to tell, but I asked who the president was, and it said something about United States of America,
Okay.
or United States.
Okay.
And then it said something about garbage.
Okay.
I came closer to the garbage. And I said, are you trying to tell me who the president was at your funeral?
It's
And
not always
I
gonna-
heard Joe Biden.
It's not always going to be a direct answer, just so you know.
What?
So the questions are almost just like a point of reference.
Well, and it feels like I've never done this part before, but you can hear it when it's doing the scanning, and then you can it stops and focuses. Like, it feels like
It stops on purpose.
yes,
Right.
and I can hear what it's saying. I can hear the song, but I can't.
You're on the right path.
Figure out
you
what
heard
it
Joe
is.
Biden, you heard United States, you
Yeah.
heard garbage. Unfortunately, all three of those things are common terms for what's going on today in the election world.
Talking about war.
Okay. The word garbage is a key word right now, based off of what's been going
Yeah,
on for the
yeah.
So I don't want to say like I'm throwing it out, but it's just too common right now.
Sure.
That's why I pay attention to the news. Unfortunately, I have to know what the hell's going on in the world. I'm actually pretty excited about what's
Something about make mistakes.
You're on the right path. 3 N's that you should focus on: names, nouns, numbers.
Okay.
That's kind of how this will work.
I heard Heather's name.
Okay.
Not now, earlier.
All right,
today.
I get it.
Okay.
All right, let me follow up with Rebecca and see what's going on with hers.
Oh, and when you were talking about splitting into groups, it said separated the 3.
It
But
did.
but again, it's like it. Yeah, it
You'll
slows
see how
down
it
and it.
And it focuses.
Yes,
See what's
it's like
going
it finds a station and then stops. A girl just laughed, but I laughed.
That's crazy.
Goosebumps. I don't want to read into it, but
Right? Here, I want to ask it.
you could. You want to switch?
Yeah, just for a second.
Yeah, like it'll and then it will stop. It just it was like a DJ said, "Yep, you're golden."
Huh.
Eliza, can you tell me how old you were when you died?
We'll get through this. Eliza, what president was your pallbearer?
All right, Eliza, we got to go. Can you make yourself shown right here next to Heather? You can keep listening to her. Do I keep doing this one?
No, you take.
Sure.
You have, I think, a better idea of what you're like supposed to listen to.
Well, I don't know. I'm just.
Yeah.
Did it stop and focus?
Well, yeah.
Did you want me back on these? Looking for answers.
You're better.
All right, so cameras, if you have one, hit those stop buttons. You can relax. On the way. Nothing on yours at all? Okay.
Nothing I could.
Nothing. And again, if you couldn't make it out, we probably weren't meant to hear it. That's the way I look at it.
I have a couple. I don't know if there's anything, but 9817. Comedian, garbage, and legacy.
I'm going to just cut out the word garbage because you're not the first person to hear that. Again, that's a common thing with going on with the election right now between Trump and Kamala. They're throwing
Right.
the word garbage at each other right now.
Oh,
probably.
So I'm probably just
Yeah.
going to omit those that are coming through. So Clay, did you hear anything along the way here? I know we were kind of chatting.
Not really. No.
Not really?
Nothing jumped
And
out.
for word list, Amy, where you at?
Butter, taste, industrial, quit, survey, do, accept.
Yeah, we'll let her know. Oh, I also forgot to tell you guys that she did get the word England on her list when we were talking about Eliza back there. So I am pretty excited about that. So hopefully this will help us out. Anybody with a millimeter, look for an 8 or above.
Do you want to
That'll
trade
be
for a
your
little bit?
baseline in this location because of the
Sure.
lamppost
Okay.
there. So it does give off up to a 7.
I'll hand you this.
So, this I know
And then I'll hand
it's
you
dead,
these.
but it does have some wires running to it. And we still have this guy nearby. So I usually look for 8s or above. So just let me know if you get those numbers while we're here. So this location, every ghost tour comes here. So remember your cameras, you want to kind of point them one way or the other going down the alleyway. We don't want just like us standing here in the circle. We want to get the long shot. With that said, if other tours are going to come through here, they're going to come out of that ivy wall. We just lower our cameras. We will understand the footage of your feet. So just lower it and we'll kind of, we'll split the seas and let them pass through. But every tour comes through here. We have about 338 ghost tours here in Charleston. Every one of them comes here. I know it doesn't look like that right now, but it seems like I'm the only one working. So kind of a weird and good thing, I guess. But anyway, moving on. We all come here because it's kind of a staple. And I was going to take this out of my route, but like I said, this guy follows me around. And I figured, why not just keep his origin story in play? So here's the story. I'm going to give it to you the same way the other tours do. I'm just going to give you a few extra details because you're ghost hunting. You're not on a campfire marshmallow kind of ghost tour. So let's get into it. A doctor moves here from Rhode Island. His name is Dr. Joseph Brown Ladd. Say say his name slowly because those of the listening to Spirit Boxes while we're here, if the song Brown Eyed Girl shows up while we're here, it's not coincidence. It's part of his name. We get it all the time. But anyway, Doc moves here because he's supposed to get married to his fiance, Amanda. Amanda just inherited a lot of money from her dead parents, and she has an attorney helping her out with all of the cash flow that she just got. So the attorney thinks that Dr. Ladd is just after Amanda's money. So he tells Amanda, get rid of the doctor fella. He's going to take all your cash. So Dr. Ladd moves here to Charleston to prove that he's not. So on his way into town, he had a coachman, and the coachman set him up to be robbed and killed. It's like having a really bad Uber driver in today's world. Just like to point that out for when I get my teenagers on the group. They don't know what the hell a coachman is. But I know, right? But anyway, somebody was walking by and seeing what was about to happen. The person walking by was named Ralph Isaacs. I said his name slowly because he has the same initials as where the doctor came from. We were getting the letters RI all the time on regular Spirit Boxes, so I wanted to verify it. I had another device. It broke last week, which is why we're not using it tonight. So again, I have to wait for the replacement on that. But it basically acts like a digital Ouija board. Gives us letters whenever we have an EMF spike. So it actually gave us the letters RI about 6 or 7 times in the past year and a half that I've had the device. I would call that pretty consistent, just based off of what we actually get out of it. Only shows up with Ralph's name. Back to Ralph. He tells the doctor, hey man, I know this guy, the coachman. He's going to try to kill you. Why don't you come with me? I got friends at 59 Church Street. You can rent a room from them. You'll be safe and good to go. Doc was, okay, fine. They pick him up on the offer, and they became friends. The longer the doctor stays here, the more money he's making. He's proving his point. He's not after Amanda's money. He's making his own. She gets wind of this, and she's moving down. So they can be married. Dr. Ladd then became known as the Whistling Doctor. This is why I hate the story. Every haunted city you will ever visit is going to have a cliched whistling ghost. We all have one. This just happens to be a doctor. And we've gotten some validated pieces from him while doing these tours. But moving on. The reason why we're in this particular location is this place used to be called Dueler's Alley. This is where some of the duels used to occur for the city of Charleston. So let's kind of get into that part of the story. Dr. Ladd and Ralph go see plays together. They can't sit next to each other because the doctor makes more money. That's the hierarchy of Charleston. He gets better seats. So they go see Richard III one night, and on their way home, they are discussing the new actress, and Dr. Ladd thought she was great. Ralph didn't. They start arguing, and then Ralph is insulting the doctor's fiance, Amanda, back home in Rhode Island. It got really ugly between the two of them. They go their separate ways. The next day, Ralph goes to his friends at the newspaper and places an ad in the paper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. Kind of a, you're a disgrace to society kind of shit. Doc saw this and rebutted with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. Somebody's going to die. All this over an actress, by the way. I just like to remind you how dumb shit was back in the 1700s with arguments. Yeah. Anyway, the two gentlemen came down here back to back. They took their 10 paces away from each other. They turned. Doc pointed his gun in the air and shot. He did not want to kill his friend. Just needed the courage and bravery to show up to the fight, which is often what happened at a duel. But Ralph still has his one bullet, and he puts it in the kneecap on the doc. Doc didn't die. Ralph proved his point. Still mad. Not willing to forgive. Doc's friends picked him up, took him home to 59 Church Street, where he died 10 days later, November 2nd of 1786. And we're coming up on that date, approaching very quickly. So I'm going to point out a few things that, well, first off, the doctor did refuse medical treatment, and that's why he died 10 days later. But let's point out a couple of things. It is 1786. Gunshot wounds are a lot different back then than what we know of them now. And he's also a doctor. He probably just thought he had lead poisoning and tried to bleed it out himself, but obviously he failed because he died. Every ghost tour tells you to listen for the whistles. We have 3 cameras running, plus my voice recorder right now. If we're going to get a disembodied whistle, more than likely it's going to show up on one of those 4 different devices. However, regular Spirit Boxes with the headphones, especially the recorded ones, I can't tell you how many times I have been doing the spot check and I hear the whistling part of a song and the word doctor comes out of a commercial immediately after. I don't look for it, it just happens. When I'm spot checking your guys' media, it's minute 1, 5, 10, 15, 20. You guys are going to see those markers. That's the pattern I use, so that way I'm unbiased towards looking towards something specific. And it happens all the time. So it's just Doc like basically saying, hello, I'm here, and I'm listening. So if you're going to try this on your own and walk all the way through this alley with your voice recorders from your phones, listening for those whistles, just remember every local knows the story. Anybody walking up and down Cumberland Street or Queen Street, we all throw a whistle down this alley. Even when I drive down this, like down the road, I throw a whistle down the alley. It's just something we do here. So let's talk about how I got booted out of this particular location. This is the fun part of the story. It also shows you why we're doing what we're doing next. This alley didn't go all the way through the way we came in. There used to be a wall up there. And the reason why is because this is where they kept the livestock for the city of Charleston. It was called Cow Alley. We're actually going further back than Dueler's Alley. So the reason I'm telling you this, Cow Alley was basically all the cows, goats, and chickens were down here, and you've already kind of heard me tell that group that was standing over there by those bricks. But the bricks down on the other side is where they started, and those are sun-dried bricks from slave children. There's a full handprint in one of those bricks down there from a slave child. And I used to take my groups down there for a history lesson because there's nothing paranormal about it. I've already told you how I feel about cemeteries. That kid is not staring at that brick in the afterlife. Nothing goes on there. It's just a history lesson because we all need to see how far we've come from slavery. However, November 26th of 2020, I took my entire group down there, and they're all huddled around the brick waiting for something to happen. I know nothing's going to happen. I'm trying to shoo them along. Come on, guys, we got to keep going. Because I'm trying to be respectful. We're standing outside the dining room window of the beautiful mansion at the end of the alley. I didn't realize that we were out of bounds for tours. I was still new at this. So, the new owner of that mansion came out screaming his head off. My daughter was on the tour that night. She was about 14 years old at the time. She thought it was hysterical that her father was getting screamed at, and she was all about it. The next day was Thanksgiving. We just moved on. We just kept doing what we needed to do for the rest of the night. The next day was Thanksgiving, and I don't tour on holidays. I used to work in upper management for Walmart, and you guys all fight over towels on Thanksgiving. You scarred me for life. I'm never working another holiday again. Well, maybe another Halloween later, future, no, not tomorrow. But moving on, the next day I called my partner, the 28th, and I told him what happened. He's the guy who brought me into tourism. And he laughed at me just like my daughter did. He's like, dude, you're not allowed to go down that far. You can only go down halfway. It's considered residential down there. He's like, you got to reroute your group. So what I told my group, I'm sold out again because it's Black Friday. Tickets were way cheaper back then, just pointing that out. So I told them, I don't get into the next story, nor have I had anything ever happen over there with my equipment because I'm into vampires, not pirates. I would normally tell you about pirates next, but I've been kicked out of there too. But before we let, we'll kind of make a point here real quick. If I were to tell you that we were going to be discussing pirates next, what's the first real pirate you would think of?
Blackbeard.
Yeah, that's what most people would think. But somebody with a spirit box heard the name Anne. I didn't tell them
Anne
it was
Bonny.
going to be the female pirate, Anne Bonny. Yeah, so I was kind of excited about that. Like, okay, we'll see what happens. I took them around the corner. I told them what I did know about piracy. It wasn't much because I only had a few hours to do some quick reading. And somebody else heard the number 300. I wrote it down because I didn't know what it was. We were there November 28th of 2020. Anne Bonny's trial for piracy was November 28th of 1720. We were there on the
300
exact
years.
300th anniversary of her pirate trial. Yeah, some of you are looking at me like, oh, wow, this cool stuff. I was actually pretty ticked off. I have a master's degree in creative writing and many bachelor degrees in other forms of writing. I like research that is hardcore data, especially when I'm doing anything paranormal. Problem with pirates is that pirate stories come from pirate lore that was written 100 years after the days of Blackbeard and Anne Bonny. That's a lot of reading when you guys think you caught something that might be relevant to Anne Bonny. I have to read like 5 textbooks just to verify. However, over the 4 years, I actually compiled this great story that was actually quite fun to put it together over those years, but I can't tell you the story anymore. So here's what's going to happen. I did find a quick replacement, which is a story that every ghost tour tells, and I hate the story. So I found another replacement, and that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So it's around the same cemetery. So we're going to actually add some attachments to Tom's camera so we can see further into that cemetery. And as I'm basically modifying his camera, I will tell you the very quick scenario of what goes on with that location, and hopefully we get things from Dr. Black at the same time. Like, that's the hope. So obviously we'll be able to unmute when we're near that cemetery. We're not going to be bothering anybody. We got anything going on with our devices, any millimeter numbers, any words coming up before we leave this space? Wow, silence is compliance. Nothing weird on the cameras, gentlemen?
Nope.
All right. So
I don't think so.
with this location, let's go ahead and let's get back up to work. Cameras, you can go ahead and like hit those stop buttons. We're going to be walking again, but we're going to get your cameras like lined up perfectly when we get up that cemetery. So Dr. Lad's going to follow us. So let's go see.
Raise your right arm.
Just because it's from the time era, but it's questions about like the establishment, things like that. Anything weird going on with the gear from there to here? Big clays capturing like things all over the place.
It looked like somebody was sitting on something, but I think it was just that tree and that little thing.
Again, if you were recording, I'll be like.
I did hit record on it.
So, yeah, you guys can, if you're recording now, you can stop your recording. The city was trying to save this church, and so that way the fire was like on a rampart. Like it was just on a warpath. It was going to blow everything up. So what they did was they actually blew up the French Huguenot church first. So that way the fire actually had a path to go through. And that plan didn't work out so well because St. Philip's caught fire anyway. Yeah, so it's burning, and there is a slave down by the wharfs. His name is Boney. That's what he goes by. His real name is William. And Boney sees that his church is on fire. So he comes flying in off the wharfs on foot, and he literally scales the building. You can see nothing on there that you can grab that you can actually climb on. So he scaled the building to get to the top so he can burn and take off the burning shutters. So he's up there and he's saving the church, and that's exactly what he did. Well, everybody inside actually saw and knew of this because the fire was so huge, and they actually bought his freedom. cost just over $700. And Bonia said to actually wander around the church at all times, basically across the street, the cemetery over there. So there's story number one. Let's go 100 years later. Next to the church is a house. And in that house, 100 years later, lives a little girl named Sally. I know this is going to sound like an old wives' tale, but that's why we're here. So Sally is about 12 to 14 years old, and she's hanging out with her friends. And her friends dared her to go into the cemetery at night and lay a cane over top of Bonnie's grave. And they would go there the next morning to verify that she actually was brave enough to do it. So she took them up on the deck. She's a smartass, so she did it anyway. So that night, she runs into the back of the cemetery, and she gets scared. She starts to run out of the cemetery. Well, she forgot to leave the cane behind, so her friends could verify that she did it. She runs back and gets scared again, but stakes the cane into the ground and tries to run away, but can't. Ended up frightening herself to death because she staked the hem of her dress into the ground with the cane. So now we have this alleged ghost of Sally and Boney. Here's why we're here and why I'm even humoring this type of story. You guys have already heard like real history from it. So this particular story, I was telling the story that all ghost tours tell one night, and I'm going through the recording. And I actually, when I get a disembodied voice, meaning it's not radio chatter, I actually analyze it because I want to know how many pulses it went over. I get a Sally, 5 radio stations. Most 2 to 3 syllable words will not transfer over more than 2 to 3 frequencies at a time. This went over 5. I was pretty convinced, especially since it was a young female girl's voice. So, at this point, we've also caught some words up there with Tom's camera that were intelligent. I'm not talking like a bug flying by. I'm talking a large thing like this, the size of my head, moving, stopping, moving in a different direction, stopping, so forth and so on. We've caught those so far. We're going to go up there, and we've had some weird anomalies with the anomalies as well. So if you get anything above a 2.5, I want to know about it. So kind of keep that in the back of your brain. All 3 cameras, you'll be stationary, like basically just panning the cemetery back and forth. If I get an anomaly, I love it.
I can hear it.
I missed it. I'll listen with it. Yep. Okay, yours is the hardest because you don't know when it's going to be anyway. Almost like welcome. Almost on mine. I didn't get the first consonant, so I don't know if it was Rick or Nick. I know it was Zick out of it. So. Again, I expect zeros, so if you get anything, I get something.
Oh.
That's pretty high for the sponge.
All right. Are you trying to show up there?
Missed it because of the spark. It almost sounds like helicopter is what I got.
Oh, look at your stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, look at it. Holy
There's-
moly.
There's a couple that are showing up there. Look.
Yeah.
You gotta find humor in this stuff, because if you're not,
Oh, look at it.
get about an average of
I see you. Can you be stable there? Yeah, there you are.
what she wants me to do to help her.
Clay. Just stand here and watch for a bit. There's one that keeps showing up. There's actually 2 that will kind of bounce back and forth.
What?
See? It'll just show up between these 2 poles right here. And it'll just keep showing up. It won't stay constant, but it just bounces. Do you think something's there? I don't know. It's the only time I've actually gotten anything other than actual humans. That's not a light pole.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's slowed down now.
59, 71 children, textiles. Versus 17 is the second time that's come up.
What Clay's got going on? How we doing down here?
I've got a few going on.
You got a lot of layers in here, so the more still you are, oh, that's actually pretty
Like, I'm
good.
getting some
Yeah.
pretty good ones.
Yeah.
So that's definitely screenshot worthy.
There's-
if
there's
that's
a
you, raise your
few.
right hand for us so we know it's you. Clay, you hearing anything?
The only thing that was real clear was 96.9.
That makes sense. The fire was in 1796 from
I gotta run.
because she ran to the back of the cemetery.
Whoa, look at all that.
Oh my
Right? I'm
gosh.
She's
getting a
gonna
ton
get
of
a lot
like
of
bouncing,
layers.
but
But I want like a
All the
reaction.
trees and everything.
Yeah.
2.1, 20. I got 20.
You got a 20?
Yeah, I'm getting 1.4 right now.
Take a 20.
looking at you. Are you
I
getting
think
it?
that's
What's
the highest
that?
I've seen of
Those
yours.
look like
20 and
bodies,
then
They do.
3.7 right after.
but they're not staying.
Yeah, I just wish they would stay.
Can you
just
hold
kinda
it up
keep
on
you
the
guys
other
on
side
this
of the
side
bars?
the
Oh,
fire
that was a
hydrant,
good
if you don't
body
mind,
right there.
Scott.
Did
Was
you
it?
see
To
that
get
for a
too
split
close to that
second?
house right there on the corner.
5. Kitty cat.
I like the run over here. It's not for us, it's what she did.
Right.
So,
Right,
like,
yeah.
I'm good with it. Clay, you got nothing? Okay, keep listening.
Okay.
You guys are gonna remember this. What we got?
People, something like Nick or Nick,
Okay.
and Wonder. There's a lot of voices, but I just can't. Well, it sounds like voices. And zero.
How you doing on the thermal?
Nothing.
Tom, how we doing on your end? Anything crazy? Nope. I mean, that EMF is probably the highest thing we've had so far. Any sounds coming out of there, Mark? Nope. Okay. All right. Let's see what we call it. I think that this is probably the most I've seen here in a while. She actually was wrong. She's getting a lot. Yeah. Well, that one I need to test because there's a lot of layers here.
Hi, kitty.
So
Hi, kitty cat.
Oh, hi, kitty.
Hi, kitty. It's not creepy at all.
No,
It's not black.
I don't care.
It's not a black cat.
Nope.
Said don't roll your eyes.
Who said that?
I named her Jack when I was trying to get her to. And then Jack showed up pregnant. So I changed her name to Jackie.
Is that because the cat has something to do with
Go
it?
back down to where we started. Trying to tell you guys what's gonna happen.
Are we moving?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. I was using the word list that night, and I got the name Tim on mine. Behind me is a bust of Henry Timrod. This is the guy that I thought that I was following us around over by the Pinckney Mansion site. That's why I was like, that's a little far away for him. But anyway, back to Henry. Henry is sick through most of his life, and he is old enough to go fight in the Civil War. He's a writer. So he goes out to the battlefield to go fight for the Confederacy, and his comrades realized he was too sick to fight. They sent his ass home knowing he was a writer and said, go be the voice of the war. Go tell people what's going on out here. So he came home to Charleston, started writing poetry, became a laureate of the Confederacy, pretty big title in case you're not familiar. But he was doing pretty well for himself, and he has a son by his wife Katie. The son's name is Willie. He's born on Christmas Eve, but he did die 9 months later, also in the month of October. So again, Henry and his son both died in October. We normally wouldn't get much out of these sessions. Last October, it was pretty much dead doornail for 31 days. It was crazy. This month, he's actually been okay. Moving forward, Henry's not writing as much for quite a few years. And he has a writer friend, Paul Hamilton Hayne, that says, you're not writing as much, dude. Why don't you go use my cottage in Columbia? Go get back on track, leave Katie behind to mourn with her parents that were here visiting. He took him up on the offer. He goes out there to Columbia. That's where he wrote his last words. His last words were, beholder of brief mortality. And then he coughed, and it landed on the page in a blood stain. He had tuberculosis. He died right there, age 38, pen in hand. Perfect way for a writer to go. However, we're here because of the blood stain. They show it one day a year, every year, at the Charleston Library Society, only on Halloween. We call it the blood book. And the reason why is because the blood stain is in the shape of the silhouettes